lack of sympathy, disregard, inhumane, hard-hearted, callous. Those are just some of the antonyms for the word compassion. So my question for you right now before we get into it is, are you a compassionate person or not? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Kiaundra Jackson Show. I am your host, licensed marriage and family therapist, Kiaundra Jackson. Now, because the world is crazy right now, I think that we need to all embody a little bit more compassion. Compassion is just a feeling that motivates other people to relieve the physical, the emotional, and the mental pains of other people. So I want you to put in the comment section below, do you feel like you are a compassionate person? Do you feel like you have compassion? And if so, tell us why. And if not, what are you going to do to improve them? Hopefully the 5 things that we're going to break down right now is going to be helpful and beneficial to you on that journey. I recently watched a video on YouTube about compassion, and it talked about it being a natural result of paying attention, of continuing to pay attention to someone. And I was like, that's an interesting definition, aside from the ones that I just gave you, even with the antonyms. I thought that was really powerful because it is correct. When you are paying attention to someone and you're consistently paying attention to them, you are noticing their wants, their needs, their goals, their desires, but you're also noticing their body language, their affect, the things that they're saying, the things that they're not saying, what has shifted and what has changed. And once you are aware of those things, you have the opportunity to do something about that. Whether you choose to do something about it is up to you. But I thought that was an interesting perspective. So a way for us to enhance compassion in our own individual lives, which ultimately will help the world, is 1, to practice micro compassion in daily interactions. Now you might be like, Kiaundra, what is a micro compassion? And I think that micro compassion is just those small little deeds that you do throughout the day. Have you ever seen those Honda commercials? And it's called like Helpful Honda. So they go out and pay for people's gas, or, give them free groceries, or pay a certain thing. And the hopes is that person can pay it forward and do that for somebody else. It's those small same deeds in regards to daily micro compassion. So it can be as small as holding the door open for the next person that's coming in when you're at an establishment, smiling at a stranger genuinely, offering to carry an elderly person's groceries to their car. These are just small things that you can do throughout the day that you probably don't even think about if you're really truly a compassionate person anyway. That can, 1, help the world, but also to help change that other individual's person's day. So think about it. If we all practice micro compassion every single day, all of us did that, oh my God, our culture, our world will be a completely different place, because we wouldn't be so self-centered, but we will really take the time to figure out how we can impact somebody else's life in a positive way each and every day. So I'll probably already do this when I do leave the house, but I want this to be something that you implement and practice as well. Micro compassions daily. The second way to increase your compassion is to acknowledge common humanity. It's important for us to always remember that even though we come from different backgrounds, we have different racial ethnicities, different skin colors and tones, all of those things, we still human. We still go through the same stuff. It just looks very different in different forms. Because at the root of it all, we experience the same doggone emotions. We all experience joy and fear and pain. And at the root of it all, we're very similar. We're much more similar than we realize. So recognizing humanity and the commonality between everybody that is different, it puts things into perspective. I talk about celebrities a lot on my YouTube channel because I have a separate thing that I do on my channel here where I break down things that are kind of considered celebrity gossip from a licensed therapist perspective. And I often tell those listeners who watch those videos that people who got a lot of money, celebrity, fame, followers, child, they're the same as you and I, right? They just got a little bit notoriety, a little bit more money, a little bit more fame, a little bit more fortune, but they go through the same things that we go through, right? I have the opportunity to work with so many A-list celebrities in private practice and on other media projects. And trust me, they got the same issues you and I got. So I said all of that to say, just remember that we're more similar than different. when you have those moments where you want to talk bad about somebody and you want to gossip and you want to say, oh, look at that person, or I can't believe they did that, and look what she got on, and oh my God, if that was me, I wouldn't have done that. You don't know what you would have done if you were in those shoes, right? So just make sure to realize that at the end of the day, the only race that's out here is the human race. And this brings me to my third point about compassion and how to enhance that, which is to learn about different cultures and perspectives. Every time that I take the opportunity to explore a different race, a different religion, a different preference, I learn so much more about not just those individual people, but just about humans in general. And so sometimes we think that we have to stay in our own little bubble and realize and stick to our own belief systems. And if we sway outside of that, that's going to be a negative thing. But learning about different cultures, traveling, going to different places, seeing different scenes, understanding rituals and traditions, those are some of the most powerful things that I have ever done in my life. And I noticed that what it does is that it decreases prejudice, because oftentimes we just think of prejudice as being like white, black. No, it decreases the prejudices that we have for other people, but it also increases the empathy, putting yourself in another person's shoes to experience exactly what they are going through. Seeing that two experiences might be very different, but their lived experiences are not negated and it's still valid. It really helps you relate to other people and increases that compassion that we all need. And before we move on to the next thing, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with someone who needs it, because doing those things helps me to create content like this continuously that will change your life and others. The fourth way that you can increase compassion is to challenge your assumptions. There's a really dope book out there called The 4 Agreements, and it's by, I believe his name is Don Miguel Ruiz, or Ruiz Miguel, something. Sorry if I'm butchering his name, but he has this really great book out there. And one of the agreements is don't make assumptions. The other one that I love, which we're not talking about in this video, but it is don't take things personal. I feel like those two things right there, if people would just live by that, the world would be such a better place. But oftentimes we assume things about other people, about their money, about their family, about their health, about their race, about their career. We assume, we make assumptions about other people so much, and we don't leave opportunity and space for them to tell us what their truth is. So sometimes we go off of limited information, and that colors us from having compassion for other people. So on those times when you feel judgment rising up, because we all have been judgmental, like, let's be real, when you feel that judgment rising up, I want you to stop, actually just pause, take a deep breath, and just remind yourself, do I have all of the information and the facts here? Because if I don't, I could potentially be making an assumption about this person that isn't accurate. It helps you to shift your mindset, and now you're understanding like, whoa, I may not know everything that this person is going through in that situation, and so I probably shouldn't put my mouth on them and to speak about something that I'm not fully aware of. So compassion rises, criticism decreases. And last but not least, before I give my final thoughts, is to develop self-compassion. I know we talked about compassion in general, micro-compassion, and now we're talking about self-compassion, but this is something, it's almost like I probably should have put this at the top of the list, because it is almost priority. It's like a starting point. If you're not compassionate to yourself, if you are not kind to yourself, how are you going to extend that same grace, that same empathy, that same understanding, that same love to other people? So we have to learn how to be compassionate to ourselves first, practicing that in our own lives with our own little small family, friends, small community, and then we can go out and be more compassionate to the world. I mean, we can think of so many big heavy hitters, as I like to call people who are life-changing in our society, that had this higher level of compassion, like globally, right? Who's done great work. I mean, we can say like Mother Teresa, like all of these people. But those things are great and grand and amazing. But what about if we did those things on a smaller scale in our own communities and in our own individual lives? Sometimes I have to be compassionate to myself and say, okay, Kiaundra, did you make assumptions about yourself? Because if you did, girl, what's going to happen? So we have to realize that this is a starting point. This is the starting point. So before I give my final thoughts, it's all about giving yourself grace. When you make mistakes, when you have setbacks, when you're struggling, when you have difficulties, instead of beating yourself up, you need to say, okay, life is lifing. I'm gonna give myself grace. Maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's also the economy. Maybe it's some outside factors, external factors that are contributing to how I am thinking and feeling and what my lived reality is. So extend the same kindness that you would to other people for yourself. It's reverse. My final thoughts on this, because it's a wrap. I feel like compassion is something that we don't talk about enough. I just knew that it was something that I needed to talk about on this channel because I'm seeing people not be compassionate. All of those antonyms that I gave y'all at the beginning of this: disregard, lack of sympathy and empathy, hard-hearted, callous, inhumane, unconcerned. Those are things that I am seeing running rampant through our community, especially online. People just be saying anything to anybody, just rude. They're just not taking things into consideration. And I'm just like, whoa, what is our world going to be like? How is this going to impact the next generation? Who wants the next generation to be all of the antonyms that we just talked about? Like a whole world full of people who just don't care about other people, not compassionate to themselves, not practicing micro compassions and helping other people. There's so many times where I have walked out in public, right? And I'm walking into an establishment and somebody just sees me coming through the door and they don't even try to hold it open for me or anything. They just let it slam in my face. And I'm like, oh, you couldn't take the extra 2 seconds to just hold the door for me? Or like, you know, like we're living in that kind of world. And it's kind of scary. So I hope this video is helpful to you. I hope it reaches who it needs to reach. And I hope that you share this with someone who needs to be more compassionate or who are already compassionate and they just want a little bit more of this in their world. So thank you so much for watching another episode of the Kiaundra Jackson Show. Make sure to watch some more episodes and I will see you next time. Be blessed.